Hello, welcome to the Wonder and Wonder podcast. So, in this episode, what my goal is to share some of the few lessons that I have learned from the past few months. So, actually, three lessons. One of them is the lesson of the subconscious excuse, and second one is the lesson of the ultimatum, and the third one is the lesson of unconscious radiance. So basically, I'll explain each one of them, how I came into my own conclusions based on my experience and my readings and study observations also. So the first lesson, the subconscious excuse, is something that I've come up with. Now, I thought about a lot of it on how do I make it to a structured form to explain. So that's when I came across the book of, The Courage to be Disliked. It's a wonderful book, and I think it sum up the themes in it sum up this thing that I've learned, the subconscious excuse. Now, I was not a very bookish kind of a person. I remember in my school years, from I think till sixth, we had library class. We used to go sit in the library, but I didn't feel like reading books. I just looked at the pictures and went it away. And they used to say that maybe I thought book is not for me, because whenever I read it, I feel sleepy, or I just look at the pictures and leave it. So it's kind of like your fault. And but what changed me is that one day, while I was walking in the morning, and I had this Audible subscription. We used to do payments in Google Pay, and I got an offer in Audible subscription that 3 months it's free. So what happened is I did the code and I used it. And now out of the book was Malcolm X, The Outlier. Outlier is a fantastic book. Now I started to play it, and it was, I think, 5 or 6 hours, I think more than that. And it was so fascinating that I completed everything. In the walk itself, I skipped all my calls. The calls were important. I called them back and I said, I'm going to call back. Wait, I'm in an important thing. And I listened to the whole Outlier thing, how the baseball thing, how the story of Microsoft and Bill Gates. And it was so fascinating. And then it occurred to me, I was never the problem. So I went to the library. I started to read some of the books. It got interesting. And when I went to the library, I picked up one book, The Mountain Is You. So while I was, watching in interviews and podcasts and so in my studies, this book always used to come up. So it intrigued me, and in the library I took and I started to read. I read and it was 200 pages. It was more than 200 pages, but while I reached 200 pages, the room was actually very cold. So here in Saudi, the library, I think it was 20 degrees, 90 degree, 22 degrees Celsius. The room might be. For me, 27 is cold. Okay, I like warm temperature. I like to work in an environment where there is warm temperature. So I used to go out, because outside it's so hot. It's 45 degrees, 50 degrees. Stand out for 5 minutes and come inside and finish the book. So that was why. So then I understood, okay, I am not the problem. Sometimes the author gets boring. Sometimes the concepts gets boring. Sometimes the book is boring. And it's okay. So that's when I changed. Until that time, last year, I thought, yeah, book is not for me. I'm not a very bookish person. I'm not a bookworm or something like that. So I disregarded books. But now it changed. And for the past, I think 2-3 years, I learned a lot from books, from libraries. I recently learned about the founder prenup equity splitter calculator from one of the startup books. I learned marketing principles from the Diary of CEO. I mention also in my blogs, I mention in my videos also a lot of books. I get a good grasp in this 2 3 years. I wish, yeah, if if we could just get this 2 3 knowledge of bookish knowledge in the schools, it would be nice. But in a school, it's just structured systems and etc. So that's the story of how I came to the reading. So it took a lot, but yeah, it's, I think, from then on it's just conditioning, and we are told we are this way, we are told that we are that way, and then you learn about yourself and then you move on. So that's how I came with the books. Now, the courage to dislike this book, I think I bought this in Calicut when I was in Calicut to do some visa procedures or something like that. I came across these shops, and while I came across the shop and something struck me, so I went back. So I went back and I asked, there was this, it was fully dusted. The book was fully dusted. You can barely see the headings and the cover page of the book. It's been lying down there for so many years. So I picked it up, like, I was like, is this for sale? And he said it's 200, 300 something. So in my Google Pay, I just put 150 and said, and I showed him personally. He said, I'm gonna do this. Nobody will gonna know, and I'm gonna pay it. He said, okay, do it, and I got the book, and that was in, I think, this year. I think the beginning of this year, I was in India. At that time, when I was in India, so I started to read the book. I found it very interesting. It's basically Adler's philosophy and Adler's psychological theories and how his viewpoint. Now, I was a kid. It is psychology basically. Now I know psychology because I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. 5 years I was into the psychology. I wanted to start a mental health firm, and I was behind it for, I think, 2 3 years, and I didn't. I've paused it because I didn't get a good team. And in my recent video, React Less, Reflect More, I've said about the entire thing. Why psychology? Because the thing is, I'm not going to repeat it, but in a gist, what it is that psychology, for example, if you're creating a product, for example, let's say you want to create a bag. Your product is a bag. You understand the branding, the color of the branding. You have a product, tangible, touchable product. But when it comes to psychology, when you're providing a service, an intangible service to a society, it's a very different realm. You have to touch on a lot of topics. For example, there is Freudian's school of thought, and then there is, today that I'm going to talk about, Adler's thought. Then there is neuroplasticity. Then there is, masculinity framework, femininity framework. So there is aspects of, then there is a whole other world of self-improvement, and there's so many aspects in that. And to understand, to get a team wherein every team member knows what we are talking about, what to take, what not to take. So there is healing through belief. A lot of things are there. So I didn't find quite a right team to build a firm. So a lot of startups, I think, if you don't have a good team, please don't start. So I've kept it paused. I've gone on to another ventures also in life. So anyway, in gist of it, this book talks about Adler's psychology. Now, Adler's psychology is completely different from Freudian psychology. It's completely different. I don't think Freudian, as in my bachelor's and master's, I don't think they have teaching this with the same priority. They're always, in India at least, I don't know, is it just me or I was not paying attention, I don't know. But I feel like Freudian psychology, the Sigmund psychology is always prioritized in the world of psychology. But I don't think that is the right way to do it. I actually disagree. Equally, I think more importantly, Adler's viewpoint is more valuable than Freud's. I would say that. So now you will understand these things if I convey the themes in this, inshallah, in this book, The Courage to Dislike. So I'll just skim through the things. I'll just talk about the things that I've underlined, and maybe so you'll get the first lesson. The first lesson is the subconscious excuse. Okay, so basically, The Courage to be Disliked, this book, it is a distillation of Adler's philosophical and psychological ideas and teachings, taking the form of a narrative dialogue between a philosopher and a young man. So that is it. And it is philosopher and a young man. Basically, it's a narrative like how Socrates and Plato's, how they believe it, questioning and things like that. In that way, it is written. So the one of the first chapter it is here is that trauma doesn't exist. Yes, that is the first one of the first chapters. It is in his book. It's written that we do not suffer from the shock of our experience, the so-called trauma, but instead we make out of them whatever suits our purpose. We are not determined by our experience, but the meaning we give them is self-determining. Yes, the meaning we give them. The experience of a horrible calamity or abuse during childhood or other such incidents have no influence on forming a personality. Their influences are strong, but the important thing is that nothing is actually determined by those influences. We determine our own lives according to the meaning we give to those past experiences. Basically, he's saying meaning is important, not experiences. The meaning that we give it to, the subjective interpretation we give is important. In the book, he gives an example. So the youth gives an example. There is one of his friend. He doesn't go out of his room because there is some social anxiety or something like that. So he really wants to go and to talk to people and things like that, but he has shut himself in the room. So to that the philosopher replies, see, he's given like this reply: if I stay in the room all the time without ever going out, my parents will worry. I can get all of my parents' attention focused on me. They'll be extremely careful around me and always handle me with kid gloves. On the other hand, if I take even one step out of the house, I'll just become part of a faceless mass who no one pays attention to. I'll be surrounded by people I don't know and just end up average or less than average. And no one will take special care of me any longer. So such stories are not common. So this is how the book starts. Yeah, this is how the book starts. So the kids, and as the book, we go, he says that people fabricate anger. And he explains how anger is a tool. And basically, so in one instance, the kid goes to a restaurant or something like that, and the waiter spilled coffee or something. So the kid got angry at the waiter and he was on full rage. So to that the philosopher is like, their interpretation is going like this, the conversation goes like this: see, it is solely that you got angry so that you could shout. So in other words, in order to fulfill the goal of shouting, you created the emotion of anger. So the youth is saying, I fabricate. You mean to say that I fabricated? You gotta be joking. You could have explained matters without raising your voice, and the waiter would most likely have given you a sincere apology, wiped your jacket with a clean cloth, maybe taken other appropriate measures. He might have even arranged for it to be dry cleaned, and somewhere in your mind you were anticipating that he might do these things. But even so, you shouted. The procedure of explaining things in normal words felt like too much trouble. And you try to get out of that and make this unresisting person submit to you. The tool you used to do this was the emotion of anger. So this is how he explained, and he replies, I swear to you, there wasn't even a second to think of such a thing. I don't think it's over, and I don't think anger is. I didn't fabricate these things, and this is how the whole conversation begins in this book. So some of the things he says is, see, there is a chapter here in this saying unhappiness is something you choose for yourself. So this was written, I think, way back in the 90s, but basically today we have this famous opinion: happiness is a choice. That's what basically he's saying. and he when the kid asks when the youth asks, so you're saying that I chose this life, like I chose unhappiness, is that what you're saying? So what he does is that he says that, have you heard of that Socratic paradox saying no one desires evil? So what he is saying is that, see, nobody desires to do evil in this world, but even though we have criminals, we have people killing each other, we have people robbing banks, we have people raping, we have everything. Basically every criminal has an internal justification to get involved in anything. So even though no one desires to do evil, everyone has justification. Similarly, nobody wants to become unhappy, but everybody has justification. So that's how he the conversation goes. Okay, so and he goes on to saying that personality is a choice, lifestyle is a choice, and for the kid this is all like, no way, what do you think, why will I choose this personality, why will I choose this lifestyle, I don't like this. So he says, like, when deep down in the conversation, it's like he's saying that it's like driving your old car. It might rattle a little bit, it's easy to maneuver easily, but the thing is that if one chooses a new lifestyle, no one can predict what might happen to the new self, how to deal with events when they arise. It will be very hard to see ahead to the future, and life will be filled with anxiety. A more painful and unhappy life might lie ahead. Simply put, people have various complaints about things, but it's easier and more secure to be just the way right now it is. So he's saying people don't have the courage to, or people are anxious to change their lifestyle, so they just stick on to what they're doing right now. So this, and so there is so many instances. So in this book you will find a lot of examples, you will find a lot of instances, you will find a lot of scenarios, just because that's the only way you can understand psychology. So because it is a subject of intangible intricacies, I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly, but the only way you understand, because for example you have Freud in psychology, you have Adler psychology, you have this theory, you have that theory, you don't know how to apply, but all of this seems to be true. So the only way you can take one or leave other, or take something good out of it and leave the rest, we can do like this, is based on examples. So you will see a lot of examples. So in this one there is an example where a young friend who dreams of becoming a novelist. Now the philosopher says he never seems to be able to complete his work. According to him, his job keeps him too busy, and he can never find enough time to write novels, and that is why he can't complete the work. Now, but is that the real reason? Now, in his way, that's not the real reason at all. It's actually that he wants to leave the possibility of I can do it if I try. By not committing to anything, he doesn't want to expose his work to criticism, and he certainly doesn't want to face the reality that he might produce an inferior piece of writing and face rejection. Now, here what is happening is that the philosopher is saying a person wants to become a famous novelist, but deep down, his subconscious excuse, which I made up, the word subconscious excuse, is that subconscious excuse here it is that if he publishes his work, then it is like he might get a lot of criticism, and maybe deep down he fears that he won't be able to take the criticism. So he's just avoiding that. Not to avoid that, he says, I don't have time, my job keeps him too busy, etc., and he will wait for another 5 years, and after 5 years he will say, I'm not young enough. So that's how and the youth is having conversation. The youth is saying, okay, I can relate it, and the philosopher, he should just enter his writing for an award, and if he gets rejected, so be it. If he did, he might grow or discover that he should pursue something different. Either way, he would be able to move on. That is what changing your current lifestyle is about. You won't get anywhere by not submitting anything. So that's what the youth says. The kid says, your philosophy is too tough. And he replies, yes, it's a strong medicine. And they say, yeah, strong medicine indeed. So another example he says is, yeah, so there was a female student, okay, female student, her concern was her fear of blushing. She told me that now this is a philosopher saying, she told me that she was always turning red and whenever she was out in public, and that she would do anything to to rid herself of this. So I asked her, well, if you can cure it, what will you want to do then? And she said there was a man she wanted. She secretly had feelings for him, but wasn't ready to divulge with him. Once her fear of blushing was cured, she would confess her desire to be with him. Now, Triyu says, yeah, it's a typical female student would seek counseling for. But in his case, he saw this as this is not a typical case. In philosopher's view, what he's saying is that she needed that symptom. She needed that symptom of blushing. The girl wants the cure of blushing, but the philosopher's viewpoint here is that she needed that symptom of blushing. So the philosopher asked the kid, what do you think was the scariest thing to her, the thing she wanted to avoid most of all? So now in the conversation, as she has a fear of blushing, she can go on thinking, I can't be with him because I have this fear of blushing. So because she has this subconscious excuse that I have this fear of blushing, everything is okay. So that's what the philosopher is explaining. So now the kid is saying, so she fabricated that fear of blushing as an excuse for her own inability to confess her feelings, or maybe as a kind of insurance for when he rejected her. I said, yes, you can put it that way. So here he's saying basically everybody is going through something or the other. If I pass this exam, then it will be good. If I get this promotion, life will be good. If I get this job, life will be good. So similarly, like this, the girl is also, if I just cure this blushing, life will be good. So what he's saying is, deep down there is always a subconscious excuse. Okay, there is a reason. Okay, so for example, we all go through things in life, there is a reason, and if that reason is not, and we try to solve that reason, but there is always another layer, a subconscious excuse also. What this book does is to explore that subconscious excuse also as well, not only the reason for not achieving the goal, primary goal. Okay, so that's what it's going, that's how the conversation is going. Okay, now there is another instance where he says the philosopher is quite short. Now he is 155 centimeters. So what he's saying that, if I thought that if I had good height, I could do this, then I could do that, I could do this, then everything will be nice. So, but that was not the case. The issue is really not what sort of meaning I attribute to the height. It's what sort of value I give it. There is always a subjective interpretation that we give, because I cannot do this, or I am this because I have so and so, so and so, so and so. That is a subjective interpretation. And that is also a value that we assign to. Out of 100, maybe it is 50, maybe it is 70, maybe it is 80, maybe it's 100 on 100. The more higher the value, the less we are able to achieve it. And it's based on a person. If he gives higher value, then that goal won't be happening. It's like he gives the logic of dollar bills. For example, if I were the only person in this world and no one else existed, I'd be probably putting those $1 bills in my fireplace in winter time. Exactly the same logic. So he's saying that the value we assign is also important. It's not just a subjective interpretation, but also the value we assign. And he says there's like wonderful conversation going on between them, and in it what intrigued me is him saying that most people use the causal relationship the causal relation. For example, for example, people use I'm not well educated, so I can't succeed, or I'm not good looking, so I can't get married. So basic, once someone is insisting on the logic of A is the situation, so B cannot be done. So because of A, I cannot do B. So this causal relation, cause and effect relation, this is not there. This is people are existing. We convince ourselves that there is some serious causal relationship when there is none whatsoever. It should be like, okay, I'm not well educated, so I'll just have to try harder than anyone else. Khalas. So subjective interpretation is so much important. Now, this is not something that I talked about, subconscious excuse. That is something deeper. Subjective interpretation is on the surface levels. You have something, understand what you're saying. Does it relate? The logic of A is logic of A, and then saying that because of A I can't do B. That has nothing to do with now. Now here, see, we all have these things in our life. A lot of things we say because of A I can't do B. Now since we don't think about, there is nobody is going to come to you and say this is your problem, this is your main problem, and if you just do this and there is 10 ways to solve this problem. No, you will have to sit and do creative methods and do problem solving, figure out 10 ways to do it, sit and write your problems down and figure it out. Nobody will come. No, what people do is A is there, so I cannot do B. Khalas, and they sit. So this is something I often notice with a lot of people. So he's written in this book very beautifully. So I thought I would kind of share it. Now in this book also, yes, he rejects the idea of Pavlov's experiment. So basically Pavlov's experiment is that famous dog experiments of the saliva and reinforcement and punishment. So what he says about here is that, see, if one takes appropriate action, one receives praise. If one takes inappropriate action, one receives punishment. Adler was very critical of education by reward and punishment. It leads to mistaken lifestyle in which people think, if no one is going to praise me, I won't take appropriate action. And if no one is going to punish me, I'll engage in appropriate actions too. You already have the goal of wanting to be praised when you start picking up litter. And if you aren't praised by anyone, you'll either be indignant or decide that you'll never do such a thing again. Clearly, there's something wrong with this situation. We are not living to satisfy other people's expectation. Now, when he says here that he rejects the idea of reinforcement and punishment, yes. When you think, I don't completely disagree, nor I completely agree also. See, for example, if you are brought up in a family wherein there is a lot of jobs, for example, your grandfather had a 9-to-5 job, your father had a 9-to-5 job, your brothers had a 9-to-5 job, and if you are doing an entrepreneurial stuff, things won't go nice. So they will definitely punish you. They will do negative behaviors, saying, no, your father also did a job. It was a job. So do job. So in that kind of context, this won't work. But there are some contexts this will work. For example, last year, I don't use any social media, but I use YouTube. Now I had when I used to use shorts. Now I used to scroll a lot. So one thing that I did was I stopped using shorts. How I did was I said to myself, okay, today I'll watch only 20 shorts. If I watch 21 shorts, I will punish myself by giving another 50 push-ups into my daily exercise routine. My daily exercise routine would be minimum of 100 or 150 or maybe even 200 push-ups. So after that 200 push-ups, I have to do 50. So when I did this, I stopped watching YouTube shorts. The same with, for example, sometimes I forget where I kept my phone. So if in the daytime I used to calculate, okay, how many times did I forget where I kept my phone? So if it's 2 times, I gotta do 100 push-ups, 50-50. So I would punish myself by doing push-ups. So next time, whenever I keep the phone, I remember, Suhed, you have kept the phone over there. So this is how I train my brain. So this has helped me. Okay, reinforcement and punishment has helped me. But what in the context of Adler, what he's saying is, don't satisfy other people's expectations, and that's such an important lesson. So which is what basically he's saying in the context of, as I said, entrepreneurial and job kind of situation, this works. So this also is something that I thought I would share. Okay, and there is a part in this wherein he said about freedom, and it's so beautiful how he says about freedom. He said, a stone is powerless once it has begun to roll downhill. It will continue to roll until released from the natural laws of gravity and inertia. But we are not stones. We are beings who are capable of resisting inclination. We can stop our trampling selves and climb uphill. The desire for recognition is probably a natural desire. So, are you going to keep rolling downhill in order to receive a recognition from others? Are you going to wear yourself down like a rolling stone until everything is smoothed away? When all that is left is a little round ball, would that be the real I? It cannot be. So he basically says that he compares us to the stones. So if you're rolling down according to society's expectations, then in the end we are not our true selves. So why are that is not freedom. Why we are settling for people's expectations, and that is not freedom. So in this, the kid asks, so are you saying that one have to resist instincts and impulses? And in the conversation, so they're having a very amazing conversation. So what he says is that freedom is being disliked by other people. That if you're disliked by someone, it is a proof that you're exercising your freedom and living in freedom, and a sign that you're living accordance with your own principles. And that's what you have to do. So I think everybody should read the way he talks about freedom. It's quite fascinating. And the book goes on by saying several other things. I'll end up with this one more theme, and that is the main difference between the Freudian, the Sigmund's viewpoint, and the Adler's viewpoint. So, and this says the philosopher says that he didn't have a good relationship with his father because he was a moody person and taciturn person, which is like not communicative, moody, and he used to hit him, things like that. So now there is two viewpoints, he says. To the kid, he says there is two viewpoints. What Sigmund's viewpoint would be, it would be like this. It is because he hit me that I have a bad relationship with my father. Now, it is because he hit me that I have a bad relationship with my father. So the father hits him, he has a bad relationship with father. A, B. Now I'll say Adler's viewpoint. I bought out the memory of being hit because I don't want my relationship with my father to get better. You see the difference. In the Adler's viewpoint, it's just not a reason, it's not a subconscious excuse, it's just fact. There is no procrastination in his dialogue or his viewpoint. He just said, I bought out the memory of being hit because I don't want my relationship with my father to get better. Now he says that it was more convenient not to repair my relationship with father. So what people does is, as an excuse, I can say, subconscious excuse, I would say, would be my whole life is not going well because my relationship with my father is not good, or I had this trauma, I had this thing, I had that thing. That is Sigmund's viewpoint. I had that thing, that is why my whole life is like this. This is because of the trauma I had, so and so, so and so. It's a very good, convenient, amazing subconscious excuse. But Adler's is very different. Your reality is your fault. Own it and fix it. That is how Adler's way of life, and I think the school of thought of Adler's is mainly different. And I think it today, the Sigmund's viewpoint in society is too much. The way we view society is too much in terms of Sigmund's. Like this blaming our past, it doesn't make any difference. It's good to hear, it's good to understand, it's good to listen to stories, but at the end of the day, it's your life. And we should stop romanticizing Freud's theories. I would go in the extent of saying that also. So these are the theories and these are themes in Adler's philosophical school or psychology of thought, school of thought. Now, the one key takeaway from this book is that for me is the subconscious excuse. If you have a goal in your life and there will be a gap, you are currently at position A and you want to go to position B. B is your goal. And obviously there will be reasons and things like that. You are trying to solve the reason. But deep down, if you solve the reasons also, if you cannot solve the subconscious excuse, you won't be able to reach your goal. This subconscious excuse, the lesson of the subconscious excuse, that is what I can take away. And I hope that this have in the themes, through these themes from the book, The Courage to be Disliked, I have explained to you. It is written by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing their names correct, Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. Okay, so it's a nice book. I think he wrote it in 1999 in his mid-20s. I was born in 1999 and I'm currently right now in my mid-20s. But anyway, so the subconscious excuse. So if you have a goal, also understand, yes, there will be reasons, there will be a bridge, there will be a gap, but also understand sometimes there would be some subconscious excuse that you might, and that you will have to figure out by writing down things, that you'll have to figure out. You are having a deep conversation with yourself, maybe figure it out, write it out, draw it in a paper, but figure it out. Instead of just taking years on end, it will be you talking to yourself, maybe writing a lot, journaling yourself. You will have a better relationship with yourself. Okay, and there's a lot of things in this book that says about relationship, and it's a must read. For psychology students at least, it's a must read. Okay, now the second lesson is the ultimatum, the lesson of ultimatum. Now in the scripture, the last scripture, the Quran, there is a verse, and this has always stuck with me from childhood. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Like, and what is this world except temporary pleasures? Now when I look back, I was a child when I think 3rd standard, 4th standard. I was a very curious child. I was a very, very curious child. That is why I went into psychology and fields like this. It's still very curious. Nothing changed. But I knew there was a deep problem in society. There was a deep problem with the world. I knew there is something that I'm not seeing. I had this feeling right when I was studying in 4th, 3rd standard, 2nd standard. There is something wrong. There is something wrong with the world. I'm not seeing something clearly. And that's the sole reason that I took psychology, that I studied religion. I studied most of the religions also. And you check when I say the ultimatum is, and I quote, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Everything in this life is temporary pleasures. I think that, okay, the ultimatum is that everything, whatever in your life that you're striving for right now, even if it's a business, girl, cars, money, everything, it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. You want that girl, you get her, you maybe marry her, maybe it goes. You get that business, it comes, it goes. I think God is teaching the lesson that over here, everything is temporary. The only thing that is permanent is your soul, and that is again you. So the soul is permanent, everything else is temporary. So whatever you're chasing is temporary. You will get it, but it will be taken away anyway. At one point of life it will be taken away, to a point that I think God is doing repeating this. He's gonna take it, remove it, take it, remove it, to the point that to make us understand that in life the ultimatum is that your soul is permanent, everything else is temporary. Maybe to teach you a lesson, everything else that you're seeing is temporary. You experience things, good, but everything here is temporary. Nothing here is for permanent. So that feastiness for a goal, to really, 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 really want that thing should be not there. That should be deleted. If you have a goal, that feast, yes, you should strive, you should work hard for the goal, but that feastiness, that's not good. So the lesson of ultimatum says it's more about you. So the soul is permanent. I think about it, and in the scriptures they say our soul goes up, and we have other souls also, like our grandfather who's and ancestors who have died. And I used to think that, yeah, so if I die, my soul is going to go up, and I could be able to see Noah, I could know the Prophet Noah, the Prophet Adam, I could be able to see Prophet Muhammad, I could see all these amazing personalities. And I would think, yeah, imagine that you're dead, and all your life you're comparing with these amazing people who have done, for example, Noah. He has done such an incredible things. That's in and of itself another episode. But the fact that and I think we should leave a legacy, at least maybe think for ourselves and leave a legacy. The lesson of ultimatum, when we think about it, we get a lot of insights from it. But all in all, it says that the soul is permanent. So learn, experience, knowledge, wisdom, these things, prioritize that. Everything else comes and goes. Girls comes and goes, money comes and goes, cars comes and goes. So everything else, boyfriend, girlfriend comes and goes. Everything else comes and goes. Soul is a permanent. So now when you think in the spectrum, for example, the subconscious excuse, the lesson of the subconscious excuse, the lesson of the ultimate, both of these are I. Both of these are I. Now I was brought up in this Indian household. Now it is not very popular that I think that if I would talk about this to my parents or grandfathers, so you are very selfish, because you have to work for it, you have to do everything for others, you have to do the concept of self-improvement, the concept is very selfish to them. So we have been taught that no, others, service, others, there's nothing for the soul. So, but both of these laws that which I learned, I think these laws are always there in my heart, but to just structure it, formulate it, and communicate like this, I didn't get a chance. This is right now I'm doing only at the age of 24 and a half, 25. So we were told that this is very selfish. This is the area, this is very selfish, and if you are selfish, then you are hell. Bingo. So there is no other way. You hell. This is what we have been ingrained in our brains. This is what it has ingrained until we learn and condition ourselves, etc. Now, the third lesson is that the unconscious radiance. Now, I think when I was maybe in 10th, 11th, I don't know, I read Nelson Mandela's, I think it's a poem where he says, I think most of the people would have heard it, Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and famous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. In the poem, the Nelson Mandela's poem's last part, that is what I want to share here today. It says that when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same, as we are liberated from our own fear. So basically, when we do something, for example, the first two laws, if we work on ourselves and then we try to achieve our goals, people around also, we unconsciously give them permission. Okay, he did it, so what's the problem? So I can also do it. And that perfectly sings to that. And that is an act of service. And that's how you do actually an act of service. Not by doing the imposter symptoms and then you give out from this empty cup. No. You learn, you know about yourself. This equipment, this vessel, this body that you have given with intellectual properties is so much than we truly imagine. So the third lesson is the unconscious radiance. If we consciously and subconsciously, if we truly understand our value, worth, and we try to do things and we try to achieve things, the people around us thinks and look at us, okay, we unconsciously give them permission to do the same. He did it, so I will also do it. And you notice this, and when you try to live for maybe 3 or 4 years constantly, living in a different way, people around you also slowly started to notice things, and they also change. They won't change in 6 months and 3 months. No, don't be so unrealistic. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I've noticed this. In a lot of families, I've noticed this. So the 3 laws: the law of subconscious excuse, the law of ultimatum, and the law of unconscious radiance. So I thought I would communicate. Hopefully I would have communicated these things. These thoughts were there in my mind for so long, and I usually it's a podcast, so I have to find a quiet room and structure it and make it everything. And I hopefully have conveyed my best possible way. I don't know what my future self would be thinking. I think my future self would be thinking, oh look, he is thinking that he has solved a very big puzzle. In fact, he just crossed from A to B. I don't know, something like that. He would be making fun of me anyway. So I hope this helps, and please do check out some of my other works also, like the videos and blogs and my website www.suhailhussain.com. So with that note, thank you for listening. This is the Wonder and Wonder podcast. Your host Suhail Hussain.